Hello guys, this is another episode of Sip to the Script. I'm your humble host, Young Seaka, and today we have another female artist. The one that's been repping Ottawa for a long while right now, doing her thing around... Well, you know what? I'll let her do her thing. What's up, KHAØS?
Hi.
How you been?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I want to thank you actually for showing up for our first sponsored episode, actually. Yeah.
Excited to get some of that coffee.
Oh man, trust me, I've had it before, and it's man, that you'll get it once you taste it.
Excited.
So today we have our drink premiered by Coffee Mate, which is a new a syrup you add to the coffee, and then it gives you some kind of a taste. So today we're trying those two flavors, and actually, do you want to let me know how you feel about the taste?
Yeah, for sure.
No, for sure.
I'm trying caramel, but
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. I'm a huge fan of caramel, so.
Every time I taste it, I'm
Doesn't
like,
even taste like coffee.
at all, not at all. It's just like sweet. You know what I mean? I love it. This is great. Anyways, but I just in terms of like how you've been touring around the world, you know what I mean, and doing your stuff, especially during like festival season. I'm sure that like those kind of drinks, you have to drink them. You know what I mean? Like in the morning, at night. You know, it's like a lunchtime. You know what I mean? So like to stay awake and stuff like that.
Caffeine Nation.
Yeah.
I actually drink a lot of Red Bull. And I have this drink at Starbucks. I always ask my manager before any trip, like if we don't stop at Starbucks to get this one drink, I'm cranky. But yeah, it's tiring, but I don't know. I guess the energy and like the adrenaline of performing keeps me awake that way. So
no, for sure.
Yeah, you get hype.
Especially during the summer, like we've had a couple conversations with other artists, like going around the world, like, you know what I mean, in the morning, taking a flight, and then getting to the place where you need to perform, sound check, and all that stuff. Like, I can imagine, like, how tiring it is. So I want to thank you very much for, always repping Ottawa when you're doing it. I really want to appreciate that. Yeah, so let's start with the interview. I'm happy about this. Like, when you actually confirmed with us, I was like, finally, you know what I mean, we get to, like, cater to our female audience, finally, you know what I mean, the EDM section of things. And for the people listening that might not understand why EDM is so related to, you know what I mean, hip-hop and the other interviews that we've done in the past, maybe could you fill us in as to why hip-hop is so, you know what I mean, closely related to the EDM world, of course?
Especially recently, what I've actually noticed, even like I just played Ever After this summer, and a lot of the lineup had a lot of...
Whoa. Where'd you play?
Ever After.
Oh, okay. No, that was a quick flex. Okay. All right, then.
It's no big deal.
I'll let you finish, of course. Keep going.
But yeah, I've even lately, like in the past year, festival lineups have started incorporating rappers and like hip-hop artists. So who performed? I think French Montana and OT Genesis were actually on the lineup.
Oh, sheesh.
And then Boy Wonder was a DJ on the stage that I played. So, like, it was crazy.
Boy Wonder.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I think what's happening is that even in, like, the... even musically, the, like, trap and, like, that kind of, like, sound in EDM is coming through to the foreground, where bass music is, like, this year it's been, like, the year of bass music. I think that what's happening is that hip-hop is, like, coming through in, like, the influence there.
Well, I mean, even during the summer, like, it became, like, I think the most, like, renowned genre of music just around the world. Like, everybody listens to it. Yeah, exactly. So, that right there, do you feel like your sets have changed ever since like hip hop became so?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
I feel like when I started DJing, I was like the typical fangirl for like big room music. So it was like Hardwell, like all those DJs, and like my taste in music has like I've kind of grown into my taste of music. So I'm a huge fan of like hip hop influenced stuff, because that's the type of stuff I listened to before I got into all this too.
No way.
So
okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, see, we kind of talked about like how you first came into the world of EDM and stuff like that, and how like the influence changed and stuff like that. But I personally, just because this show is so important for, you know what I mean, Ottawa and the scene that we're trying to create just as a collective, kind of talk to me about yourself, you know what I mean, and how it was to like grow up in Ottawa and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually immigrated here from Ukraine. I was born there. I moved here when I was 8.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, still, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know any English.
At all?
Yeah, like, literally, they taught me 4 words that have nothing to do with anything. Like...
Apple pie.
No, even worse. I knew sand, shovel, doll, and bucket. So like my first day of grade 2, I like roll up, I practice those 4 words. I'm like, I'm set English professional, and they're like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Bucket."
Shovel.
Like not good times.
Right. And then
I still go to my parents and I'm like, what education was I put through when we moved here? Like, not hello, my name is not important.
shovel and bucket. You're good to go.
So sad.
So you immigrated from like, and I mean, it was still around like 8 years old and stuff like that. But do you notice a big difference between Ukraine and Canada? Just maybe.
100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My parents wanted my family to move here just for better job opportunities, just because where I'm from, there's not really like a middle class.
Okay.
So like you're either rich or you're like
poor. Okay.
you're out there. So my parents didn't want like their family to struggle in Ukraine. So Canada's like world renowned for being like the best place to like immigrate to and like where you can like start like a life. So yeah, we moved here, and here like everything is super like it's hard to describe. Like Europe is obviously completely different, but like it was really easy to integrate life into Canada, minus the fact that I knew 4 useless words.
Of course, yeah, and I kind of feel the same way. Like I understand those criteria when you talk about them, just because my family immigrated to Canada also. So like, just the culture itself might not be like super close to everything, but once you get there, the opportunity is given to anybody to kind of go. You know what I mean? So that's why I think that this city, just in itself, with everything that they're working on, like just the scene and stuff like that, people are starting to like break the veil and get out there and put themselves out there in terms of artistry, just alone artistry. You know what I mean? I feel like it was important to have this show to at least have you know what I mean? Kind of talk your shit and let yourself go up. You know what I mean? So thank you very much for showing up again.
Honestly, my pleasure.
So yeah, you immigrated from 8 years old here, shovel and bucket. And you go through life. Kind of give us more about it. Like high school. How was high school for you?
High school, I went to AY Jackson. It's a high school in Canada.
Yeah.
High school's high school. Would rather not go back.
Yeah.
But high school was fine. And then I went, after I graduated high school, I went into Le Cordon Bleu. It's like a culinary institute.
So you're a chef.
Yeah.
Okay.
A cook. I bake.
All right.
But yeah, so I studied that. And the reason I actually decided to go into culinary, like my parents like were immigrant family. Like I was like, yeah, like I want to cook, and they're like,
no way.
they're like, you trying to die? Oh my god. So yeah, like I kind of veered off because for the longest time I had this like fully planned out. I was gonna go to Carleton. I was gonna like study law. I was gonna be a lawyer. And then like randomly I realized I'm like I can't sit in a classroom for like years and years and not be guaranteed something when I could be like out like pursuing stuff.
Right.
So I went and did cooking and worked in fine dining restaurants for a couple of years. And throughout, while that was happening, is when I started to DJ and stuff too. So I had to balance that.
So that's my thing. Like, okay, I understand what you just said. You went to school to get something that was assured, right?
Yeah.
And then you ended up DJing. So how does that work?
It's literally, if you meet anyone that's known me before I started DJing, and then they like don't talk to me, like when people walk up to me now, they're like, what? Like how? Like what led to this? And I don't know. I've always I studied classical piano from a very young age, just because like Russian, like apparently that's like a thing. Yeah. No, my mom was like, piano. And I was like, okay, do it. So I studied classical piano, and then I taught myself how to play guitar, and I sing. So I was a musician for a long time before I started DJing. But what I noticed is that everyone sings. Like everyone plays instruments and sings. Like every third person's like an indie pop star on
I mean,
YouTube.
even for DJs, like, I kind of like listen to a lot of interviews and just when artists give their own insights, and I think that the single most repeated thing with producers and DJs is that if you want to get into that world, knowing piano or knowing how to touch keys and stuff like that is definitely like one of the most important thing when it comes to DJing and putting a beat together and stuff.
For sure. I know a lot of producers who aren't classically trained in instruments. They're just really good at producing. But what helps me is that like I know piano and I know harmonies and like notes and stuff too. So that's definitely given me like a head up. But if you learn how to produce, it kind of like goes into the program. I guess you just have more I know some producers, like if they don't know piano, they'll have someone in the room who knows how to play piano, and then they'll describe what they have like in their mind. Like they're like, oh, play me like a happy like chord or something, and then that'll help them with the recording process. But where I get the leg up is I already know how to do that.
Exactly, yeah. It's like an advantage right there.
So I
yeah.
can like map out my ideas like through piano, through guitar, through vocals.
Right, right. Okay, so you go through high school, you know what I mean, end up being a chef, wanted to get something, secure, and end up being a DJ. So how did it first come about? I think the first time I heard about you was a couple of years back when people like Green Room was at the pinnacle, the pinnacle of where it was going.
That's where I was.
Yeah, and they told me, they're like, I asked, I just went around and asking people, Ottawa is a pretty small city, so when you go around asking people, like everybody can, knows each other and stuff. So I went around and asked about you before you came into the interview, and people were telling me, yeah, by 11 she would have the place packed out. I'm like, no way.
It was crazy. So I used to be in a duo.
Right.
And we...
What was the name of the group, actually?
Oh, it was still KHAØS.
Okay.
It was just, it was my friend Cody that was in it with me.
Okay.
And so when we started, it was actually on a really random night. We were watching the live stream for like Ultra Music Festival because they stream it live when it's happening. And obviously we were way too poor to go. So we're like, let's watch it in our rooms and cry. So we were watching the festival. And at the time I was a huge Hardwell fan.
Yeah.
And Hardwell was closing down the festival. And it's like hundreds of thousands of people. And he's like, oh, this is my new song. And he did his like Hardwell hands thing, and everyone's like freaking out. And I was mesmerized by the way he controlled that many people's like emotions and like experience just with a song. Like that to me, I was like, wow, like imagine making a song and moving that many people.
Right.
Like you literally, as a DJ, you control the room. Like you set the vibe.
Right.
So seeing that, Cody was FaceTiming me, and I was like, Cody, like, want to be DJs? And she's like, sure.
No.
So it was really random.
Yeah.
We just wanted to learn how to mix, right?
That world is mesmerizing. Like, I think it was this summer, like, I ended up at Blues Fest with, like, media passes, flex.
Yeah,
whatever.
that was a very, very subtle flex.
Yeah. And this summer I ended up on stage with Earl Grime. And that was...
I would have cried.
That was...
love Earl Grime.
Oh my... That was the craziest experience of my life.
He's sick.
Crowd control and everything.
He's amazing,
like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so, I can't even imagine. Like, I'm sure that's especially, like, that feeling of seeing the whole crowd going insane. Man, if that was enough for you to get into that world, like, I can understand. I can relate to that, definitely.
It's crazy. And the funny thing is, like, having started from, like, DJing and, like, I DJed with Cody at Liquor Store for, like... I think for a full year. Our first official gig actually was we opened for a couple of friends who used to be in a duo called Frat House Music. Okay. And they had a show at Junction, and then we met them through them finding out that we were trying to get into like the industry. And they were like, oh, come open for us. And we're like, oh my God, it's a first show. So we played it was like the emptiest slot ever, obviously, because Junction downstairs doesn't pack until like 12. Yeah. So our slot was from 11 to 12. So like it was surprising to us because as the night progressed, as the hour that we had progressed, like it was just randomly like rammed right before 12. And people were like really digging the vibe, and it was like super fun. Like we were so nervous; it was horrible. And then having gone from that, I think our second show we ended up being on like a mini lineup for my friend's launch of a website, which was a liquor store. So we played a set there, and then the people that work with liquor store liked what they heard, so they're like, "Yo, like our DJ's out sick this Friday. Can you guys come cover?" And we're like, "Yeah, please."
And did you get paid that same day or?
The thing with like York Entertainment, when you DJ, you get paid later. Like so you like if you DJ in the month, you'll get a paycheck at the end of the month.
No, but that's the thing. Like
but it was crazy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like that's not to like put you down or anything like that. But I feel like for the people that listen to the show. A lot of people, when they first start, the first thing they think about is money. Like, how am I getting paid? How am I doing this? You know what I mean? And it's important for someone like you that, you know what I mean, that have been around the world. You know, you took time to, like, you know, groom your audience and your niche and stuff like that. For people to understand that, you know, listen, it's not always a paycheck that come with it. Like, you got to grind. You got to make sure you groom your audience. People will come and listen to you at first because... like, especially for first shows, people think, you know, if I'm not getting paid, you know what I mean? Like, it's not worth it. Like, what am I doing here?
I've actually, like, my biggest advice to anyone in, like, any music pursuing, like, when you start out, nothing should be below you or beneath you. Like, if you get a gig, it's a gig, whether it's for free, because the amount of free shows I had to play before I could, like, get booked with a booking fee was insane. And, like, I would still play those shows for free over and over again. But what I think is important for people to understand is that you have to build a base somehow.
Of course.
Like, you can't walk up to someone and be like, book me, pay me this. And then they're like, who are you?
Exactly. And that's the thing.
Who
like,
this?
That's the thing. And that's the thing. Like, people, like, okay, like, for the internet, right? Like, if you try to relate that to the internet, a lot of people, you know, will go to the studio for, like, 3 hours, put out a song, put a bunch of money on it to promote it, and think that, oh, yo, this is perfect. I got like 10,000 views on it. I'm good to go. My first show in Ottawa. Because, like, the way that it's catered to the audience on social media, you never know who's actually looking. It could be someone from New York, like it could be someone from Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly. Worldwide.
Yeah, exactly. And so views don't really mean much if where you start is not where people actually know you. So
yeah.
I mean, thank you for letting that know. Like, that's a known fact. Like, a lot of people just.
I just think that I understand why people would have the mentality where they're like, oh man, like I'm losing money. But like I lost, a lot of people lose a lot of money in the beginning, but it's like, you're investing.
Of course.
So like having played all those free slots, that's how people found out about me. And they're like, yo, like I dig what she's playing. I want to book her for this.
Right.
And like it's word of mouth. Like it literally spreads like wildfire after. Like Liquor Store, we DJ'd there for a little over a year, and we became very well known just because like the club would literally be packed by like 11. Yeah. So people started coming out, and when they'd hear that, they're like, oh, KHAØS is DJing, they're like, I want to go to this bar for this night because I know it's going to be hype.
Exactly. There
so
you
like
go.
having played free slots or like very poorly paid slots, like yeah, money is great, but at the end of the day, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah. And that place is it's nice. OT Genesis, right? OT Genesis. Okay. Yeah, no, just making sure, you know.
Yeah, no, French Montana.
Yeah, whatever. It's good.
I'm just gonna sip on my coffee.
Okay, so you start at Liquor Store and Green Room and all these places. Like, how do you make that transition? You know what I mean? And I mean, it could be like a broad question, but like, how do you make that transition from where you are right now to, you know what, like performing with those big acts and like. If I don't mistake myself, wasn't Diddy there also at After Fest?
No.
Okay. I thought he was there at that.
That was at Ultra.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
no,
summer
one
was.
Year, so Jack U brought out Diddy, and of course the first thing he says into the mic, "I ain't never been to an EDM show before," and everyone worldwide is like, "What are you doing?"
So right, like you know what I mean? Like you've seen a lot of those big acts and. Maybe they weren't part of the EDM world, or maybe they were part of the EDM world, like Hardwell or Jack Q. But like, how do you make that transition from putting all those hours into those free shows and then transitioning to, you know what I mean? Like, how was the journey for you to pierce the veil?
I think especially.
Oh, could you get closer to the mic?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
No worries.
Oh my goodness. So as a female in the industry, I found it was really hard, and I'm not trying to like preach to the choir that it's hard to be a woman because we're kick-ass.
No, listen, this is your place to talk your shit. So.
God damn it. So I found that because we started as a girl duo, no one took us seriously. So like we'd be like, it was a lot of like us basically shoving ourselves like into things. So like if I saw an opportunity, if there's a local music festival, I would email and be like, do you guys have a free local slot? Do you need anyone to like warm up? Like we would love to do that. Like it was a lot of me like networking through like even like at Liquor Store. I'm like, if you ever have anything, like let me know and stuff. Yeah. So like at first it's a lot of like you being like, yo, book me. And then throughout that it became, I think the biggest transition for us out of being club DJs was Escapade every year throws like an invitational. So anyone can submit a 30-minute mix of like what they would play and at the festival, and you basically have your friends vote. It's like a 2-week-long process where like the person with the most votes like ends up, I think they judge based on the top 10 and then like if you're in first or like in the top 5 and they like your mix and they'll pick you and you get to open the festival.
So you opened up at Escapade also.
Yeah. Oh my God, the struggle, man.
Jeez.
So didn't sleep for like a month making this. We made the mix, we submitted it, and we literally, I kid you not, I logged into almost 7 of my friends' Facebook accounts, and I hand typed all those messages to get all those votes. And it's funny that because we were girls, people are like, oh, they bought their votes. And I'm like, I don't have money to buy votes. I wish, sir. But no, literally, we stayed up into the night, like, getting votes. And then we ended up finishing in first I think we finished in second. We were in first, and it was like neck and neck, and I don't remember who was in second place, but like every time we'd get like a vote, he'd get 5, and it was like 2 a.m. and the polls hadn't closed. Like they were supposed to close at 12 a.m. and I'm like at work, like in the office, the store's closed, and I'm like crying, like trying to get these last minute votes. But we ended up finishing second once the polls closed, and we were heartbroken. So I'm at work, and I get an inbox from Alex Bonavia. He's the guy that owns Wavo, who like hosts these invitationals. And I get an email, and I didn't realize who it was. He was like, he messaged KHAØS, and he's like, what's your email? So I gave him my email, and I'm at work, and like I get a notification, and then the email is literally like, congrats, you're playing Escapade. Now I have a lineup of customers, and I just start crying, and this lady's like, did my cappuccino like upset you? Or are you like, you good? And I'm like, oh my God,
meatloaf, please.
like, oh my God. So I like served the customers, ran to the back room. I called Cody. She was driving. She had to like swerve off the road to cry. So yeah, we found out we were playing Escapade, and that was the first festival like performance that we had. We played the opening slot on main stage, so it was like from like 12 to 1. Yeah, it was huge. And we didn't at the beginning, because the gates are opening, like 12 to 1 is usually like a warm-up slot just as people are walking in. But like by the end of our slot, we had like maybe like 100 people, and to us, like we were like cloud 9. Like, there could have been one person rocking out there. I would have been thrilled. And, so yeah, we played Escapade, and then after Escapade, it kind of died down for a bit. Like we were like messing around trying to like make music, and then Liquor Store had like a block party that August, and they were like, yo, do you guys want to come play? And we're like, we haven't played in like months, so like, yeah, let's go play. We went, and it was like at capacity, like from like open to close. It was crazy.
And that's the thing. Like in months, you know what I mean? You didn't have a show or anything like that, but like, you stayed up, you kept practicing your craft. I'm sure, you know what I mean? You kept doing what you were doing to make sure that if ever the opportunity presented itself, you'd be ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a thing, like now with artists, you know what I mean? If they don't see results right away, it's like well, you know what I mean? Maybe it's not meant for me. I'm happy that, you know what I mean? That's crazy.
Yeah, I've met so many people where they're like, oh my God, DJing, like who can get into it? I'm like, literally anyone. You just have to grind. And they're like, so how do I get a gig? I'm like, well, like, you work. And they're like, oh, there's hard work involved? Aw. And I'm like,
oh, you thought I was a lazy person?
I'm like, I just rolled out of bed, and I was like, hey, I'm a DJ now. Yeah.
And so you performed at Escapade and stuff like that, and you had the block party and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of it, you know what I mean? A lot of people want to get into that world, but just don't know how to properly, you know, manage themselves or like do the business ends of everything like that. So once everything started becoming more, you know what I mean, your schedule started becoming a bit more filled and stuff like that. How do you make sure that, listen, this is how I'm going to do things. I'm going to go around about doing things, making sure that, because to have those shows in Europe, you know what I mean? Like, how did they get in contact with you? How do you get in?
I haven't actually played in Europe yet. I think in the new year, we've been getting emails to get booked in China and in India for like a couple of city tours. So that's not confirmed yet, but like it's what's it called? It's in the works. I did get flown out to, my first show that I ever got flown out to happened to be to Moncton.
Wow.
But no one like goes out of their way to go to Moncton. But trust me, I was hype. I was like, someone is paying for me to fly somewhere.
That's crazy.
I'm like excited. So yeah, that was crazy. But like once, I think that like even like so the year following we ended up getting booked at Escapade the year after,
Right.
and then that was the year we played Ever After as like an opener, just like an intro slot. We played Glow Fair in Ottawa as
Right.
well.
That was big, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Autoerotic that was on with us too, and Bank Street was like packed. It was insane.
Yeah.
And like through all those shows, like hype starts to build, but it is hard. Like I had to balance. I am on the Red Black cheerleading team, and
Okay. Okay. All right.
so I had to balance like a full-time job, being on the team and like managing those responsibilities and making time to like keep up with our podcast, like social media, like producing, and then traveling like to these shows because like driving to Toronto and stuff. So I think the important thing is to literally be super organized with your time. Like I'm really bad at procrastinating, but like I feel like being a DJ taught me that like I actually have an agenda now. And trust me, in high school, did not use an agenda. But now I'm like to the dot. Like I have.
But I mean, at that point, you know, you're doing something that you actually like, so it's not. You don't feel like it's work anymore. You feel like
that's
it's
key. That's
key.
exactly.
It's your life now, and man, that's so sick. Like that's so sick. I have just a question, really. Like how do you get used to that transition? You know what I mean? Because at first you start, it's, you know, not a hobby, but you're doing it because, you know, you're putting in the hours and you're grinding, you know, towards something. And then later on you have bigger shows and you're doing bigger things. You know what I mean? How do you settle into that transition? Because not everybody's, you know, even if you're good at DJing, you might not be, you know, built for that life. So how was it for you to, you know, cross through that transition right there?
I honestly don't think I've fully crossed into it yet. I still freak out. Like when I see crowds cheering for me, I'm like low key freaking out, like crying, like internally screaming. Like they don't know I have to like play it cool, but I'm like, oh my god, they're screaming for me, and then they're like, oh my god, looks like she's gonna die, and I'm like, yeah, probably. I don't know. I think the most fun thing about what I'm doing too is like I don't think you love doing it so much that you never fully get used to it. Like now I still get nervous before every set. Like it could be any set in the world and I'm still like I get like butterflies. My manager has to like talk me down because I'm like having an anxiety attack in the green room and stuff. Like I'm always like still to this day, and I've been doing this for like 4 years now. So like I'm like, I don't know. I feel like if you get into a mindset where it just becomes like a task for you, like then it's no fun, right?
Right.
So the transition from being like a club DJ playing once a month somewhere to like doing what I'm doing now is insane though. Like it's different, but I don't know. I guess I can't say I'm used to it either, because like every time I go to a new show, it's like a new thing, a new concept every time, because you deal with different promoters, you deal with different venues and stuff too. So
even the crowd is different also.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
You like one show we got booked to headline. I played at Belmont in Montreal, and like, as a DJ, a lot of people too, when they go to DJ, I feel like a lot of people think that you can just play what you want and like get away with it.
No.
Now, when you're a big artist, people will buy tickets to go see you play what you want.
Yeah.
But for a long time in our opening slots, as much as I wanted to like I knew I could like play more hype stuff and like get the crowd more pumped, you had to like know your place.
Exactly. Right.
So like you could be playing. Like even I from time to time I play at Alea. It's inside the casino. It's a super nice club. I love it there. And there, if I played whatever I wanted, the club would empty out, or there would just be like a couple of people who like enjoy it. But as a DJ, like in a club, what you have to do is you have to read the room. So you have to set the vibe. You start it chill, and then you like progress and you like bring peaks into the night and then kind of bring the energy back down. So you're basically controlling people's experience.
Yeah, crowd control, basically. Yeah.
So transitioning from doing 8-hour sets in a club to like making the best 1 hour set that you can play is like that. I feel like that would be the biggest like defining factor of like the transition, because you have to cater to you still have to cater to audiences in your hour set too, but once you're more well known and people are like, oh, like KHAØS, I know what she likes to play, I want to go see that. So when you do that, then that's different. But like in the club, like if I play my like trap and moonbaton, like I can play that for like a little bit, but I can't play it for like the full 8 hours. Like it's not gonna work.
And that's an advice I feel to like a lot of artists out there. You know what I mean? Like are selling themselves. You know, because being an artist is a lot of like branding and like, you know what I mean. You have to know how to market yourself to your audience and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Social media is the biggest thing now.
Exactly. Yeah. And now I feel like it's a lot of like quantity over quality, when really like people just put out a bunch of stuff on SoundCloud and then they're like, whatever hits, you know what I mean? And that's important that you said that, because a lot of people might put like 1,000 songs and have like 3 that really hits, but if you had only those 3 that hit, then that impact is a bit bigger, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
So it's important. Quantity over quality always. No, quality over quantity.
I was like, oh no, he's preaching the wrong thing.
So, and then just to like kind of close off the interview right now, I just wanted to know 2 more things. In terms of when you first started, like how do people perceive, you know what I mean, the direction you were taking with that profession right there? Like, because it's not something that everybody, you know, does, you know, it's kind of out of the norm.
Well, even when we started learning how to mix, I just thought it would be like a fun hobby. And then like it grew into this giant thing. And even now I'm like, damn, like, Christ, like,
I'm nice.
Yeah. Like my parents still don't understand what I do. Like my mom just came for the first time, she came out to Alea. I played 2 weeks ago. And
in the casino, right?
Yeah. So like she finally got to see all this, like, because this entire summer, literally, I was not home. I was just like off. Like I was playing beach club, music festivals. I was like not home. So I'd be like, I'd go work and then I'd like travel. So my mom was like, do you even live here anymore? And I'm like, nah. But yeah, so it's just like, it's crazy for sure. I like my friends too, who have known me like before there.
Right.
They were like, so DJing? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm just trying something out.
Living life.
I'm like, God, support me. Damn it. Follow me on SoundCloud. Come on. So now people like, now when I run into people, they're like, it's so cool that you're doing this. But like people are like at the beginning, so many questions. They're like, what are you doing? Like, it's a waste of time. And I'm like, I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I'm working hard for something that I'm passionate about. Yeah. And that, at the end of the day, as an artist, I find that's what the defining factor is. What will put you above the rest is just perseverance and, like, working hard. Like, there's been so many times where while I was, like, on the growth to where I am now, and I'm, like, still got so much more growing to do, that I was like, wow, this might not go anywhere. And, like, even then, like, I was just happy to have gotten the experiences that I've gotten. Like, I just played, there is like this like event that the University of Quebec throws. Right. And so we got the booking email and like I was like, okay, Frosh event. And I had in my mind, I was like, I'm playing in some club and like, it's just going to be a bunch of university students and it's just going to be a club set. So my manager and I show up for sound check and it's like a music theater. It's like a music hall and it's like a full production stage. And we're looking and they have like the strip in the front of the stage where there's like pyro and like fireworks. Oh, shit. And my manager goes, oh, those probably aren't for us. And I'm like, hype, okay, yeah. Because we weren't expecting this. Right. So then we go back downstairs and then the promoter's like, yeah, like we've sold like over 2,000 tickets. Oh my gosh. And Primo and I are like, yeah, okay, for sure. Primo's like, your... my manager, okay, yeah, for sure. So we're like sitting there and like normally when promoters tell you they've sold 2,000 tickets, in reality, they're just trying to keep you excited. Yeah. Like they might have not sold that number. So Primo and I were like, oh, whatever, like what it is. Yeah. Like we'll see what happens. Right. And then we walked upstairs out of the green room to see the opening DJs and it was packed. And I like looked at him and I'm like, didn't expect that. And then they're like, yeah, by the way, the fireworks and pyro, like let us know like for your like first intro, like we want to drop pyro. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have fire. What? I'm cool now. Oh my God, it was crazy. And like I made this like super cool intro where I like did like an edit with like the vocals from Power by Kanye West. Right. So like this Boombox Cartel song I'm obsessed with. So it was like, and everyone's clapping. And I'm just like, the lights are off, but I'm like tearing up. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? And then when the beat dropped, all the pyro went off. And it was like a fake out drop, so like it like sounded like it was gonna drop, and then another buildup came.
Yeah.
So the pyro guy clicked the button too early, but it lit up the crowd, and so like just I still get goosebumps like talking about this. It was like surreal.
Yeah.
So that entire set I played like in like a full like music hall, like packed with people, and the energy was like crazy. It was a 2-hour set. I felt like I was up there for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it was insane.
Oh
like,
man.
Yeah.
And I feel like right there, that's the testament of like, if you put in, you know, the grind, if you put in the hours, you put in the work, you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people, they see that, you know, people could become entertainers, and it's like, oh, okay, well, he's wasting his time now, you know, because like, what guarantees that he's going to make it? But it's the same thing for people that go to university.
Yeah.
You go to university for 4 years, you never know if you're going to find a job after, but, you know, you're putting in the hours with the, you know, the understanding that maybe you might get a job after. So, you know, I feel like you put in your 10,000 hours and it, you know, it paid off. It is what it is.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
For sure. I honestly, like, to this day, I'm still like that was the most recent, like, big show that I've played.
Yeah.
And, like, in that moment when the pyro went off, I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Right.
Like, this is crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to finish it off, you know what I mean? Just so we can get a better understanding from someone that, you know, that's actually been doing the work, and finally, you know what I mean, it's paying off and you're seeing the results of your work. Like, the Ottawa scene in terms of artistry is obviously moving forward, you know what I mean? It's obviously, you know, gaining growth and all that stuff. You'd have been doing this for like 4 years, right? So from where you started to now, like how do you feel about the scene, you know what I mean? Some of the people that came up, you know, with you at the same time, like how do you feel about it?
I honestly, Ottawa never ceases to amaze me with how much talent the city has. And in recent years, I feel like being a music artist, and like whether it's like you're a rapper or a singer or whatever, I feel like our city's really starting to show that we have a lot to offer. Because normally people are like, oh, Toronto has all the like music.
Right.
And I'm like, no, Ottawa has all the music too. They're all just famous, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. I know so many friends I've known for years that are like doing super well, and like thinking.
Name some of them, just, you know what I mean?
Like,
shout outs, you know what I mean?
I used to be really good friends with Jeff Sano. He calls himself Freshman.
Yeah, no, I know him. Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
No, like, he's so good.
Shout
and
out
like,
to the Story Gang, actually. Shout out Maurice Moore. Yeah, actually, one of his
and
label
even-
mates came on
and
the.
even
Yeah.
Maurice Moore. Yeah, like I haven't personally met him. We played ELE. Like, he performed at ELE last year, and I played after him.
Yeah.
But like, it's crazy just to see Ottawa artists getting like recognition like this, like releasing, like getting hype from Billboard. Someone from Ottawa actually produced Broccoli for Lil Yachty.
Yeah.
Jay Graham.
Jay Graham.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
When
Went
I
to
found
St.
that
Pat's,
out,
actually.
I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
Like, and like I like knew about these people when I was in like high school when they were just starting out, and when they were like, yeah, I'm a rapper, and everyone's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But like now it's like, you're a rapper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Like, I feel like Ottawa, the biggest thing is that local talent should support local talent. Yeah. And like locals, like, always support your local talent. Like I find that so much of what's helped me is that I have super supportive friends that come out to all my shows, and that like it's like warming to the heart, and it's like encouraging to see that because your friends support you and like they push your stuff out too. So that like, if you have friends that do music, like, you might be the key. Like, you sharing their SoundCloud link might get someone else off your friends list to stumble on it.
Right.
And like, who knows, record deal. Like,
Because it's the thing,
crazy.
like, even with if, you know, we take an example like Belly, you know what I mean? Like, they start in the city but don't get as much love as they get in the city than they get, you know, from anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they kind of look back on their grind and they're not really appreciative of where they came from, because where I started is exactly the people that weren't showing me love. You know what I mean? So I feel like the more we show love to the cultural scene that we have in Ottawa right now, the more that we'll be able to like celebrate their winnings and, you know, their growth with them once they get there. But you know what I mean? If we don't show love and we kind of let them do their own thing on their own, and you know what I mean, let them grow on their own, and it's like
it's a lot harder to grow without the support of your friends.
Exactly.
And that was the biggest thing for me, is that Like, I always have friends who are like, oh my God, you're playing here. We're actually in the city. We want to come through. We're going to bring a bunch of people. Or like, oh my God, I'm going to tell my friends. Like, that means the world to me, seeing people support each other like that. Like, if your friend drops a track, like, and you do your best to like talk about it and like put it out into the world, because at the end of the day, Ottawa has a lot of talent, but like it's hard to break through the barrier, obviously. But like if you support your local artists, you'll be the like key stepping stone in them like jumping out into the world. Right?
Exactly.
So,
Honestly, Chaos, I want to thank you for sipping to the script.
cheers. Some
This-
coffee made here.
oh man, amazing, delicious.
Oh
And this was another episode of Sip to the Script. I'm your humble host, Young Seaka. Thank you for tuning in.